Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Craig Burrell, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Able Seaman Angelina Domovska. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors and students on behalf of the following schools. From Western Australia, Strathalbyn Christian College, Primary Department. From Victoria, Rokewood Primary School. And from New South Wales, Branxton Public School. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Students, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the hearts of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private Frank Colin Apperly. Frank Colin Apperly was born in 1896, the second youngest of 6 children born to Jesse and Henry Apperly of the Sydney suburb of Waverley. Apperly's father passed away in 1908, and Apperly lived with his mother until he was 14 years old, when he left to go and work on a farm. At the time of his enlistment, he was living and working as a farmer in Victoria. He enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 2nd of July 1915 and began training with the reinforcements of the 6th Infantry Battalion. Frank Apperly was one of 3 brothers to serve for Australia in the First World War. His older brothers Cyril and George also served. Cyril was killed in action in Belgium in November 1917. On the 10th of September 1915, Frank Apperly sailed from Melbourne for Egypt aboard the transport ship Star of Victoria. He arrived in Egypt too late to take part in the Gallipoli campaign, but was in Egypt for a period known as the doubling of the AIF, when units that had served on Gallipoli were reorganized and mixed with fresh troops. At this time, Apperly transferred from the 6th Battalion to the newly formed 58th Battalion, which formed part of the 15th Brigade of the 5th Australian Division. Apperly was hospitalised twice while in Egypt, both times for foot-related injuries, luckily caused by the tough training and marching exercises used to prepare the men for battle. In June 1916, Apperly and his unit sailed from Alexandria to Marseille, and after arriving, moved to a sector of Western Front near Armentières in northern France. Once in France, Apperly was hospitalised with influenza. He rejoined his unit in the field on the 16th of July 1916, just days before they would take part in Australia's first major engagement on the Western Front, the Battle of Fromelles. In this battle, Australian troops of the 5th Division, in a joint attack with British forces, attacked a stretch of the German lines known as the Sugarloaf. The attack commenced at 6 p.m. after a 7-hour artillery bombardment of the German trenches. This bombardment did not effectively damage German position on the right wing of the Australian advance, and Apperly and the 15th Brigade came under heavily artillery and machine gun fire as they attacked across no man's land. The battle was a disaster for the Australian 5th Division, which suffered over 5,500 casualties in 2 days of fighting. After the chaos and confusion of this bloody battle, Apperly was reported as missing in action. It was not until September 1917, well over a year after the event, that he was officially declared to have been killed in action on the 19th of July 1916. A report stated that an injured Australian soldier saw Apperly's body in no man's land near the Australian lines, luckily cut down by German machine gun fire. His body was never found. He was 20 years old. Today, his name is commemorated at the VC Corner Australian Cemetery and Memorial near Fromelles in France, which lists over 1,100 Australian casualties of the Battle of Fromelles who have no known grave. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. A photograph of his name listed on the memorial at the VC corner is displayed today beside a pool of reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Frank Colin Apperly, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. Thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial, and we wish you all a very good evening.